Welcome back, Guardians. I know it's been some time, but with playing through Act 2, I hope everyone has enjoyed a little bit extra time that we've gotten and some more interesting activities we got with Act 2. I know that I've had some of my own gripes about how short the cutscenes and things have been in terms of lacking in number, really, in comparison to previous seasons and stories. But there's one thing I really wanted to touch on this time around with a lore video and just a video on Destiny in general. And I wanted to touch specifically on the cutscene that we received when speaking with Varix. The song that was played, even though that the cutscene is in reverse, the song perked my ear, primarily for two things. The Elixni are calling it a song for the lost, a song for those to follow and collect at its pinpoint, at its origin point. It was a song used to find lost Elixni or lost life out in the universe and call to them. Those of you who may not be lore nerds, I'm going to kind of help you out here and give you some more detailed information, but for those of you that are, you may have noticed, just like myself, that this very well could be the Song of Creation, or the Song of Life, as we know it. The Song of Creation was sung by the Traveler, and if this is the case, hopefully there is some connections we can make and find out about the Death Song, which is the exact inverse, and uses hidden notes from this song. But as always, we're going to go through all of that and all the details, so I hope you guys enjoy us kind of diving into this and then going through and seeing if you guys agree with me. So, as most of you know, and if you haven't played Act 2, I should have probably said this earlier, there's going to be quite a bit of spoilers here, as I will be playing some of the cutscene that we received, so if you have not completed it, fair warning. So, we received a cutscene when speaking to Varix, who recognized the song that has been heard to be playing throughout the Tomb of Elders. The idea is possibly that Fickrell is using it to call out to those lost Elixni, probably to bring them to him so that he can just simply turn them over into scorn and continue to raise his army. Now, the question became, how does he know the song? Well, we found out per the cutscene that it's not Fickrell that knows the song, it's the Echo that knows the song. And it is the Echo that is looking for someone worthy. We've been essentially told by Varix that the Echo is an entity of its own and that it is alive. It is someone that, or it can be someone that is looking for a worthy wielder of it to continue its course. The biggest point of this that I wanted to touch on, which is the song that we heard, perked my ears specifically because it reminded me of a specific song we've heard before, but also just from the description of Varix, it sounds so similar to the Song of Life or the Song of Creation that the Traveler used to gift, and the song used to be heard across the stars. It was primarily wherever life was promised to take hold, where life was promised to thrive and to continue going on in the universe. And so people and races would hear this song and travel to it once they recognized what it was. But this Song of Creation was by the Traveler. It was created and gifted by the Traveler. And some of you may know with this Song of Creation that it was worshipped by the Ammonites, which are an ancient race in Destiny's history, and the Hive, back whenever they were just recently becoming the Hive, but also when they were the Krill beforehand. Whenever they became the Hive and, tried to understand it, they thought they could understand the song to take control over life, and more importantly, death. They wanted to overcome death, as is their sword logic pushed them to find out, as the sword logic states, that they must destroy, and anything which cannot be destroyed will rule the galaxy, or rule the universe. So, if they thought they could control this song, they could become the ones that cannot be destroyed. Now, the song by itself didn't grant any life on its own. What the assumption is that the song was heard whenever the traveler was actually doing its traveling and moving across the universe, but also whenever it was using its powers to provide life to a planet, such as whenever it terraformed Europa or something of that nature. Now, the Guardians, and at least Earth as we know it, have not been able to actually hear or know this song because the idea is that the traveler has stopped using it. It's calling to other races, ended up calling the darkness to it. So the song was just another piece of the traveler that it removed from itself in order to not draw the darkness closer and any further past that. Now, where I'm most excited with this conversation is what happened to the song back in Destiny's history. This was primarily explored kind of through Taken King and Forsaken and somewhat in some of the Grimoire cards. However, what happened to the song back then was that eventually a group of Hive known as the Choir eventually managed to go through the song and make repeated performances. They actually were gifted the song and its notes, and they would sing it. However, since this song did not actually create life of its own, and the Hive themselves were infused with darkness at the time, because remember, if they're labeled as Hive, they're no longer the Krill, they're no longer an innocent species. The Hive have already been corrupted by the worm gods, and eventually, as we know now, with Sathona and Orash, that eventually became Savathun and Oryx, that they were corrupted by the Witness, as their worm was corrupted by the Witness. So, at this point, the Hive, as being infused with darkness, when they began to sing the song, it would hurt them. It would cause pain, because it was a song of light, and it was it was the complete opposite of them. And when they realized this, the singers tried to essentially figure out why. The only one who was able to find out was a Hive only known as the Stricken. They don't have any other name for him. It's either Stricken or Striken. This Hive found certain notes within the Song of Creation and reversed them and mirrored them in pitch and weaved their own song that we now know in terms of being the Death Song. However, when they created this own song in the first ever Death Song, they sang it at the choir, which was the group that was celebrating the Song of Creation, and when they sang the song, it killed the first conductor of the song. Now, with being intrigued with that power of being able to sing a death song and cause death to occur, the choir eventually captured the stricken Hive and had them interrogated to figure out how that song was created. Their discoveries would be used to create new songs, and of course, this would be known to us as the Death Songs. After that point, when the Hive Ammonite War, exploded, the choir would have used the Death Song against the species and then erased them from existence. Now, there is some lore points that this occurrence in this war and its history is contained within the world's grave. A lot of people may recognize that name, but most of you probably won't. The world's grave is a point within the moon in the Hellmouth that is to serve kind of like a library for the Hive. Though we didn't spend much time in it, I'll be honest. However, the reason this is so important to me is that the original Death Song we do not know and we have not heard. But that is because way back the choir broke apart and the perfected Death Song was lost. However, there are many Death Singer wizards out and about. We faced many of them, most notably Yrute in, Crota's End. We've faced her and killed her, and her whole mechanic during her encounter is that you have to cause damage before she completes her Death Song. You actually have to prevent her from completing it, otherwise it wipes the fire team. But she has been one of the few wizards that have given up rebuilding the choir and perfecting the Death Song because they felt they've gotten far enough. But the biggest one, and the one that I want to touch on that reminded me of this, is whenever we went back into Shadowkeep a little bit afterwards, and we understood that there was a death singer that was reborn by Savathun as Ir Aram, and she was using the body of Iram's dead sister, Malkanth. And after that, we had to stop her because she attempted to rebuild the choir with 4 other witches. However, when we go and we listen to the song that's actually being performed when we go to fight Ir Aram, this is what we hear. Now, this song, as many of you may remember this quest, we actually weaponize this song that's being used throughout this to eventually give ourselves the Deathbringer, which most of you know is a very lightly used exotic. However, when you fire it, it essentially fires a miniature Cataclysm Nova Bomb. And the orbs track everything, and it pretty much insta-kills whatever it, attacks. Now, we were only told how to do this by Toland the Shattered, because as many of you may know, as a quick note on Toland, Toland the Shattered is in his form as he is as this little white spirit because he was obsessed with the death song, and he allowed himself to hear the death song to its completion, which completely destroyed him. It shattered his soul and his body into many pieces, and now he roams the Ascendant Plane as Toland the Shattered, which is why he seems very much like an overzealous old individual, because he was a warlock in the lore. So he was one of the craziest warlocks ever known because he allowed himself to sit in front of hive witches and allowed them to sing the song to him. So Toland, understandably, is the only somewhat living entity that has heard the song to its completion. However, he helped us put it into a weapon. Now, going back to why this is so important, after you listen to this song from Ir Aram, take a listen to the song that we just heard in the Act 2 cutscene. Now, I'm going to re-reverse the clip, so we know that originally the animatic and everything was played in reverse. I'm going to play it in the opposite direction, and I'm going to try and cut out as much of the talking from Varix as I can that's backwards, so that it doesn't kind of ruin the listening experience when comparing the two. So take a listen. Personally, I think these sound incredibly close to each other. It makes sense that it's a little off because, as we know, and as I've just explained per the history of the Song of Creation and the Death Song, the Death Singers took hidden notes and inversed them and mirrored them, and so it's meant to sound very off. It's not going to be an exact inverse or an exact, mirror up and down or an octave up and down. It's going to be a bit distorted and weird, but these sound incredibly close to each other. And Ir-Aram was one of the few death singers left that had the dream of rebuilding the choir. And based on us being able to create the Deathbringer, the death song is the bringer of death. So my theory is that we were thankfully stopping Ir-Aram as she was dangerously close to perfecting the death song. Now, some of you may know that this definitely sounds a lot different in the Death Singer's Dirge, in the Taken King, soundtrack, and I agree. But we have to remember that we're looking at a situation where a choir must be singing all of these things. And so part of me also thinks that maybe the dirge and what was being sung by Ir-Aram needs to be sung in chorus to perfect the death song. I am not as musically inclined as most people could be with terms of putting that together and trying to see if it sounds like it fits together. I'll leave that up to someone very talented who may see this video and review it. But let me know what you think. Do you think this is what we're hearing? Because if it is, there's so many things that could lead to who the entity is within the echo, or if the echo is truly just going to be the emotional part of the traveler. And, we've seen how much emotion and how much memory is contained within the traveler with some of the conversations we've had from Micah 10. If you haven't heard a lot of those conversations or kind of seen those imprints of emotion and memories from getting the collectibles back in the Pale Heart, I'll put a link here to the video that I made, including a bunch of those, where I talk about how I believe Micah 10 could be our new speaker. She's being given so many visions and emotions from the traveler that she's able to interpret that are very, very important to us in the story. So definitely go give that a watch as well if you haven't. It's definitely probably going to open your eyes a little bit. But yeah, I'd love to see your guys' ideas in the comments. I'd love to kind of discuss it further, because when I heard the song and what Varix was describing, my mind immediately jumped, even on stream. I said it while we were all playing. I said, wait, I think we just heard the song of creation, the song of life, the life song from the traveler, because it was calling to people to come, and that's what the song originally did. It was a song heard across the stars, and people heard it as life is promised here, this is where we can thrive, and so they followed it. And now it's being used in the inverse to bring things to being transformed into scorn, is because we're talking specifically Elixni in this capacity. But that's where I stand with it. I think it's super duper cool that we're getting something like this, and just another little like nugget in there. We completed this act in about an hour 45 minutes, so still very little to work off of in terms of the next 3 months. But I'll continue making videos as I can on things that I find interesting and fun and kind of goofy to go over, or if there's something like this where I feel like we're connecting dots again in the lore, and I know you guys do enjoy that from time to time. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I would super duper appreciate you subscribing to the channel. I'm almost at 500 subscribers, which is crazy. I've had a lot of good growth on the channel from just kind of doing my own thing, but also keeping myself on a schedule. Also, of course, a lot of the gameplay that you see, and of course, a lot of the conversations that I have initially before I make these videos occur on my stream over at twitch.tv/chr5 with an underscore at the end. I've been streaming for well over a decade, and I've never hit 1,000 followers over there, so I'd really appreciate a follow over there as well. And your guys' support will, have me keep doing this, even though I currently don't get paid to do it. I'm just doing it as a hobby and a thing that I love doing. Talking about Destiny, and then giving you guys some gaming content here and there, whether it's recorded with my friends or it is just, random Deadlock stuff or other gameplay with Overwatch and other games that I'm enjoying at the time. I love doing this. I wish I could wake up and do this every day. So if you guys could help me get to that point one day, I would be forever grateful. My life would change. But enough of me, being all mushy and things about this, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I look forward to talking with you guys in the comments, and have a great one.